Hello and welcome to the Minimum Competence episode for Friday, October 11th, 2024. I'm your host for today, Andrew Leahy, a tax and technology attorney from New Jersey. On today's episode, we cover Trump's ongoing legal battles, Boeing's unfair labor practice charge amid a strike, and Italy's potential expansion of its digital services tax and U.S. trade tensions. Let's remember, attitude is a little thing that makes a big difference, and read today's legal news. On this day in legal history, October 11th, 1991, law professor Anita Hill testified before the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee during the confirmation hearings for Supreme Court nominee Clarence Thomas. Hill, who had worked under Thomas at the Department of Education and the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, or EEOC, accused him of harassment. Her testimony detailed allegations of inappropriate behavior by Thomas, igniting a national conversation about sexual harassment in the workplace. The hearings were televised and widely watched, drawing public attention to issues of power dynamics and gender in professional settings. Hill's testimony was met with intense scrutiny, and she was questioned by the all-male committee led by Senator Joe Biden. Despite the controversy, the Senate ultimately confirmed Thomas to the Supreme Court by a narrow vote of 52 to 48. Hill's courage to speak publicly about her experiences had a profound and lasting impact. It helped raise awareness of sexual harassment and workplace rights, influencing the way such cases were viewed and addressed in the years to come. Her testimony is often seen as a pivotal moment in the evolution of the Me Too movement, decades before it formally emerged. Donald Trump's legal troubles are far from over, with 7 significant cases involving him still in the lower courts. These include 2 federal criminal cases, 2 state-level criminal prosecutions, and 3 civil lawsuits. The federal criminal charges pursued by special counsel Jack Smith focus on Trump's attempts to overturn the 2020 election and his retention of classified documents. If Trump regains the presidency, he may try to pardon himself or have the Justice Department drop these cases. However, state criminal charges, such as his conviction in New York over hush money payments and the Georgia election interference case, are beyond the reach of a presidential pardon. Civil cases against Trump include a New York fraud judgment related to his business practices and 2 defamation lawsuits from writer E. Jean Carroll. If Trump loses the 2024 election, these cases are likely to proceed and could eventually reach the Supreme Court. The court has already ruled that former presidents have immunity from prosecution for actions taken as part of their official duties. The outcome of these cases, particularly any involving the court, may depend heavily on the results of the November election. If Trump wins, the state cases will at least ostensibly remain, but it is likely that his administration would move to end some or all of the federal cases against him. Yesterday, October 10th of 2024, Boeing filed an unfair labor practice charge with the National Labor Relations Board against the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, the union representing around 33,000 striking workers on the U.S. West Coast. The strike, which has lasted 4 weeks, involves workers at Boeing's factories, including its facility in Renton, Washington. Boeing accused the union of failing to negotiate in good faith, alleging a pattern of bad faith bargaining and spreading misinformation to union members about the status of negotiations. This comes amid ongoing labor disputes, with Boeing workers demanding better terms, while the company attempts to resolve the strike and resume production. The outcome of the charge could influence future labor negotiations between Boeing and the union. Italy is considering expanding its digital services tax, or DST, in its 2025 budget, which could reignite trade tensions with the United States. The DST, originally introduced in 2019, imposes a 3% tax on revenue from digital transactions by large tech companies like Google, Meta, and Amazon, many of which are American. The tax currently generates around 400 million euros annually, but Italian policymakers are exploring ways to increase revenue by raising the tax rate or lowering the revenue thresholds for companies subject to the tax. The U.S. has consistently opposed unilateral DSTs, viewing them as unfairly targeting American companies, and previously threatened tariffs in response to similar taxes elsewhere in Europe. Although a prior agreement prevented such retaliation, Italy's new DST expansion could bring this issue back to the forefront. If the U.S. imposes tariffs, it could harm key Italian industries like manufacturing and agriculture, potentially straining diplomatic relations and weakening Italy's influence in international tax reform discussions. Italy's move reflects frustrations over stalled global tax reforms under the OECD's Pillar 1 framework. While expanding the DST might provide short-term fiscal relief as Italy faces rising debt and inflation, it risks further damaging trade and diplomatic relations with the U.S. And with that, and as always, I thank you so much for listening to Minimum Competence, your daily news podcast for lawyers. If you're looking for more than Minimum Competence, links to further reading on all the topics touched on today are in the show notes. And reviews go a long way towards helping new listeners to find our show. If you have a moment, leave a rating or review on your podcast player. We'd sure appreciate it. And if you know someone that might be interested in the story we cover, consider sending them the episode. But remember, nothing here should be construed as legal advice because it is certainly not that. Minimum Competence is available at minimumcomp.com and wherever you get your finely crafted podcasts. If you haven't checked out the website in a while, give it a look. There are complete transcripts and resources for each episode and its corresponding segments, as well as an opportunity to receive new episodes in email, newsletter, form. We'll see you back here on Monday, and until then, note, We like to close out the week of shows with a featured musical piece. That will make these Friday episodes seem especially long. We hope you'll stick it out and enjoy the featured piece, but if music, and specifically classical music, isn't your bag, we get it. Our mouth sounds unrelated to the week's closing theme end here. This week's closing theme is by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, a composer of some note. Our theme is Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart's Piano Sonata No. 11 in A major, the Andante Grazioso, one of his most beloved compositions. Born in Salzburg in 1756, Mozart was a prodigy who began composing at the age of 5 and went on to become one of the most influential figures in classical music. Known for his extraordinary versatility, Mozart's works span every genre, from symphonies and operas to chamber music and solo piano pieces. The Piano Sonata No. 11 was composed around 1783 during a productive period in Vienna. The first movement, Andante Grazioso, opens with a gentle and elegant theme, embodying the grace and lyricism that are hallmarks of Mozart's style. Written in theme and variations form, the movement introduces a simple melody that evolves through several variations, showcasing both virtuosity and refinement. This piece is notable for its light, dance-like character, yet beneath the surface, it displays remarkable intricacy in its phrasing and structure. The Andante Grazioso is often seen as a reflection of Mozart's ability to balance simplicity and complexity, making it a favorite among pianists and listeners alike. As this week's closing theme, Mozart Piano Sonata No. 11, the Andante Grazioso, invites us to savor the charm and elegance that defines his timeless music. Without further ado, enjoy.